Thank you, Candice. And the story I'm going to tell you are part of that. You've helped shape some of my work. I have never discussed my own autobiography before, but at this age, I decided I should explain my own experiential journey, which has a lot to do with Maharishi. In fact, I've never talked too much about it, but I would like to do that. So the book I'm writing takes personal experiences through meditation, many meditation systems with TM as the foundation, but many others I've explored also. Many systems of learning, knowledge, intellectual type of work throughout not just Maharishi Vedic science, but Kashmir Shaivism, Surya Aurobindo, Buddhism, and Western thought. Formal, serious investigation, including them into my practice and taking my practice to understand the theory. So the confluence of theory and practice I've tried to integrate, because I feel that copy-pasting theories and ideas from external sources does not do justice, because the theories originated in the minds of people, so they have to be experienced to be knowledge. That's the difference between knowledge and gossip, because when you say, I was at this talk and they said this, and then I read that book, and then this guy was speaking, and I gave this big donation. I was sitting next to the big speaker at the VIP table, and that's what he said. So most of the people I find are very superficial in their ability to carry on a conversation, even if the conversation has to do with themselves and their own ideas and their own experiences, because very soon they lose track and lose interest. They get scatterbrained here and there, and they start talking about what I consider gossip. So the difference with knowledge is knowledge has to be experienced first. You can only write and talk what you've experienced. Otherwise, it's not authentic, and you can be challenged and questioned, and then you resort to anger and other kinds of things. So this is my own story, and it combines several projects that I pursued here and there, and they all come together. So I mentioned already the first project of bringing theory and practice together. How do I move this forward? It's moving here, not moving there. I think this is not connected to that. Okay, so this is moved. That is moving, but that is not. So they are not connected. But I'll keep talking anyway. So another dimension of this work, which I'm putting together in the book, has to do with my physics background, and I'm very inspired and very impressed by the work of John Hagelin here. He has done a lot of good work. But also my work, my background in computer science, which is not, I'm not talking about writing Python code or any of that stuff. I'm talking about computational logic, the theoretical foundations of computer science. What a program can do in theory and what it cannot. Can you prove the correctness of a theorem? Theorem proving, logic. These are logical foundations of computer science that started before there were computers. I mean, there were people who were talking about the theoretical limits of knowledge, theoretical limits of logic. What is computable? What is beyond computation? Now that comes into play when I started, that I utilized to ask myself questions like, is there consciousness of things that are not computable? Which, when you reach the limits of computability, have you reached the human limit? Or is there human potential beyond that? I think this is a very important question in the age of AI. When people ask, what is the relationship, the ultimate relationship of humans and AI? It's not about practical limits, it's not about money and how many data centers and who got how many $1 trillion, but are there theoretical limits? And I will talk about that. That is the heart of my book. But to get there, I have to talk about the meditation which led me there, because it's not just a mathematical and logical exercise, which is what it may seem like if I just present it by itself. So we are back to the same issue, guys. I think it doesn't want me to project this. So the first slide is just showing theory and practice. Theory is Maharishi's Vedic science, and practice is transcendental meditation. That's the ground. And the title says, first goal is to reconcile theory and practice in our own life. So that's what I was talking about. The second slide is I'm introducing other Indian metaphysical systems. So I introduced, I studied a lot about Bhartrihari's theory. And Bhartrihari's theory, just to give you a little historical perspective on the importance of Maharishi, Bhartrihari came up with the theory of language, the theory of speech, the theory of thoughts, and Adi Shankaracharya rejected that. Adi Shankaracharya rejected it. If you study Vedanta theory, you will study the Shankaracharya's commentary rejecting very no-nonsense, complete rejection of the Brahmanians. Fast forward 1,000 years, the Kashmir Shaivism people, they started by rejecting it also. And they also rejected Adi Shankaracharya. They rejected both of them. And then later on, the Kashmir Shaivism, the next level of Kashmir Shaivism, yeah, this is the second one. The next level of Kashmir Shaivism, so I have something here which is not there. No, but there is under Kashmir Shaivism there is some detail on my slide. No, the next I'll get a third one, fourth one. So this is not, there it is. Okay. So I better go back here. Okay. So the Kashmir Shaivites, after a while, it took Bhartrihari and extended it. They took Bhartrihari's system and extended it into a more elaborate system and made it non-dualist. So this brought non-dualism into Kashmir Shaivism. And it was they never really revisited Shankara. They didn't go back and say, okay, we rejected him earlier, should we now bring him back in? They never did that. So this is very interesting. Sri Aurobindo also was a Kashmir Shaivite influenced in many ways. I won't talk about Buddhism for now, I'll discuss it in a moment. I want to first discuss where Maharishi fits in. When I practice TM as a system as a method of transcendence back to the source of consciousness, which Dr. Nader explained beautifully, I was going in what I call the inward journey. And then when I was following the Kashmir Shaivism ideas, I was not practicing a meditation system, but I was experiencing the creativity which their system says would come about. They have a theory of creativity, a theory of how you create, how knowledge comes to you as an intuition, as an insight, as a flash, which is not computational. How you think there's no language there. It's a consciousness without language. So I had two sides to my life, the inner journey and the outer. The inner was TM, would take me to these states. But then very often I would find that when I finish my meditation session in the morning, I'm done with my TM, then in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, or right away, I suddenly get creative flashes. And this has been on for my life. So I'd go and write this down, and I told my family that until a certain time, don't give me tea, don't get up, don't offer me, don't tell me, I just leave me alone. Because I would write this. So I started writing this, and I want to now compile it, and these are my own journal of my experiences. And there's hundreds, thousands of these notes, some here and there. And then came the age when you could just talk and it'll transcribe and put it in your file. So I have a huge job to do, and I've hired some assistants to help me organize all this stuff and turn it into a chronology of my own journey. So the issue was, how does this happen? Where does this creativity come from? And the best system to answer the question was Kashmir Shaivism. So I had two systems. And then I was having these discussions with Candice, and I gave her the vocabulary of Kashmir Shaivism. I said, but they also describe the same thing. What Maharishi is calling transcendence, they also describe it this way. And Maharishi has a very elaborate vocabulary, but my experiences of the outward manifestation of the creativity side of it was coinciding more with Kashmir Shaivism. And then she pointed out to me one day, aha, I found one tape where Maharishi talks about this. So I said, this is very exciting, it's a very big thing for me. So we heard that whole video together. And it was a big moment for me, because it told me that these are two different systems. This is Maharishi's also got his own way, he said the same things. Now I have been following yet another thing. There is Lakshman Ju, was a great Kashmir Shaivism scholar, and Swami Muktanand, another. And both of them I was very much involved with. Lakshman Ju Academy was in Southern California. John Hughes runs it, and he's now not well. His daughter runs it. They moved to Oregon. So John Hughes lived with Lakshman Ju, who was a great exponent of Kashmir Shaivism. And he lived with him in Kashmir during all those days of terrorism and the Pandits had to run away and all. So when everybody ran away, John Hughes would go back with his family and keep recording Lakshman Ju. And so he has that Lakshman Ju's library of talks on video and tape and all that. So I was very upset at John Hughes, saying, why did you bring it here? What are you trying to do with it? Why don't you return it back? And Dr. Karan Singh, who's a Kashmir, the last Maharaja or Maharaja's son, told me, go get that back. I said, well, but his point is that you guys ignored it. Nobody was there to look after him, and he went and looked after him, and that belongs to him. So anyway, so I had my issues with John Hughes. But then over the years, I reconsidered, I reevaluated. I think I was not right. He was doing something quite remarkable. He wanted to take the recordings, put them up, along with his best translations, his best interpretations, put them up, which is what he's done. So I started supporting the Lakshman Ju Academy that John Hughes runs. And so as a result of that, I felt there's a resonance between him and Maharishi. So I wanted to find out did they know each other? Did they talk to each other? Was there influence? Was there cross-fertilization? And sure enough, there was. Maharishi visited Lakshman Ju in Kashmir. They presented to their audiences together. They were on the stage together. They invited each other. In Rishikesh, they had events. And Swamiji and Swami Muktanand was also a good friend of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. So this completes it's a big moment for me that the inward journey and the outward journey are really one. And that's big deal for me. So in writing my story, I'm also writing a story of a very important chapter in the history of Indian thought. The very important chapter is that, you see, in Indian thought, people think that there's just one and it's frozen in time. It's not so. The commentaries upon commentaries have evolved and new things have been added. While the Shrutis are eternal and permanent, the Smritis, which are the commentaries and the interpretations, are always evolving. So the Smritis of Abhinav Gupta in Kashmir Shaivism and the Smritis of various commentators in Advaita Vedanta are very important. But it's very important for me to have realized that Maharishi was developing a whole new system where he incorporated a lot of Kashmir Shaivism into Advaita Vedanta. that this enriched Advaita Vedanta while being absolutely true to the Shankara tradition, because after all he was with the Shankaracharya of Jyotirmat for 10 years, and that is the Shankara tradition as pure as it gets. So while part of that, he also was able to bring in things for the current era, because the tradition has to be revived for each era. That is what a smriti is, that you revive it for the new context. It's not frozen like the Abrahamic religions. You might be in trouble if you try to modify something, or if you try to, reinterpret something. This is a tradition of ongoing reinterpretations. And I think Maharishi deserves a place in the history of Indian thought and Vedic thought as having developed, like Abhinav Gupta developed Kashmir Shaivism, took it to new heights. Like Bhartrihari developed the grammarian system, took it to new heights. I think Maharishi has made an original contribution in the way he has expanded Advaita Vedanta. That's my feeling about Maharishi, and certainly it helped me in my life. Now, another encounter from the experience and theory meeting each other has been also in parallel with all this, and that is my experiences with Buddhism. I've been a Vipassana meditator. I've done many kinds of meditations. So Vipassana is very interesting, and I've also always tried to reconcile how does it fit into the TM system. Where does it, in the whole system of our consciousness, where does it belong? And I found Dignana and Dharmakirti. They were Buddhists in the 6th, 7th, 8th century kind of era. And when I had these exchanges like I'm having with Candace, I used to have them with my friend Bob Thurman, who is no more. He just passed away last month. A brilliant, brilliant man and a very dear friend. He was one of the leading exponents of Buddhism in the Western world. So at Columbia University, and my foundation did many projects with Tibet House and Columbia University on that. So these deep and profound conversations we used to have, where I would bring in the Vedic side, and he would talk to me about the Buddhist side, and we would talk experientially and meditate together and exchange ideas and brainstorm and all that. And we have hosted several panel discussions where we brought in people for 3-4 days to talk about these things. This is about 25 years ago we did that. So it turns out that his life work, which is very widespread, but the main work he did was on Dharmakirti. And Dharmakirti developed what Dignan had initiated. And this theory of language, mind, knowledge, limits is very deep in the Buddhist philosophy. And so when you experience, the experiential side is Vipassana, mindfulness, etc. And they give a very kind of cursory explanation to teach you that. But this is a real deep theory. So I tried to understand from this level how to relate it to Vedic science. And I have my own theory on that. So I have my goal was to reconcile all these systems. It's not coming there. Again, it's stopped. I think you have to, I'm on to the next slide.
Pointed at the laptop.
Huh?
Pointed at the laptop.
Pointed at the laptop, okay.
That was it.
Oh, there it is. Okay, now that's a good idea. So basically, I've spent my many decades. No, that's too light. I have to. No, I have to quit. Okay, there it is. Now I hope it will stay there. So I want to talk about these. These are the 4 systems that I have spent decades studying and practicing. And by the way, I should tell you, why is that so? Okay, so I should tell you that I was initiated into transcendental meditation 50 years ago this year. April, and it's very interesting. I didn't know the dates. I didn't. I didn't know the dates. I knew it was San Diego. It was mid-70s, a year before I got married in 77, or a year or two. I didn't know specifics, but I came here to learn the advanced technique, and they look you up, you know, with your name and all of that, and they did my test, my mantra, and certified, yep, this is good. So the guy told me, the guy who did who taught me the advanced technique, said, you know, you were initiated by Thomas Broggs in San Diego on 3rd April 1976. So I said, it sounds right, but I didn't know those dates. So now I'm so happy I know those dates. And would you believe, because I wanted to reconcile the inner journey and the outer journey, and I realized that Maharishi has all of it, and I was previously going with you know, Kashmir Shaivism for one part of it and TM for the other part of it. But when I realized that Maharishi has all of it, I said, you know, I got to have the experience also, not as two separate, but I have to have the experience. It shouldn't be that I'm doing TM and it's the inner journey of transcendence, and then when I'm done, 15 minutes later, I get this big explosion of creativity, which I attribute to Kashmir Shaivism. I mean, there is one, it's all one. So I figured I have to learn TM Siddhi. That's why I'm here, to learn TM Siddhi. So then they told me that to learn TM Siddhi, you have to first learn 4 advanced techniques. I said, good, fine, I'll learn whatever you want me to. So I was in a big hurry. The first one was immediately available in Palm Springs, Florida. Dr. Nader happened to be there that for our visit. So I just flew there, spent a weekend and got my first advanced technique. And the second one I got on Guru Purnima here. Now the interesting coincidence is, the date on which I got my first advanced technique was April 3rd this year. And exactly April 3rd, 1976 is when I got my TM initiation. So exactly 50 years later, to the day, I got my first advanced technique. And the second one on Guru Purnima. So there's something interesting going on. And I'm really looking forward to this. Okay, now it will come this way. So now, this is what I wanted to understand. The manifestation that Maharishi keeps talking about, how manifestation happens, and the meditation taking you back to the source, the manifestation from the source to the diversity, and the meditation from this world of chaos and thoughts and all that back to the source. And then the integration of these two in some wonderful talks that we've shared. The integration of these two is the real thing that you want to experience, so that you are in the world in the state of unity. So that's what the TM Siddhi will give me the experience of. And right now I have the experience of that using a combination of traditions and systems and so on, but I've figured it out that it's real and it works for me, and I owe a lot to that system. So now I think it's trying to, what happens now? Okay, the third goal, so this is interesting. So this, it did not come, it's a very interesting ladder, step ladder. I want to show it, but you know, if I keep pointing here, it keeps moving forward. There is a ladder system, step. Can somebody help me come here? Because it's an important slide. I want this slide for sure. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so this is out of touch, so that will change. Now, how do I get this? I want to go back. Okay, so one more, it's there, but it's not here. So it will then synchronize. That's the problem. No, that's the problem. Okay, so now if I'm here, should I stay here? I stay here. I understand, but he says stay here. This is correct here, but there it's not correct. No, yeah, but now this is, the one here is what I want to show. No, this one is not correct. Next one. Okay, thank you so much. So if you look at, if you do this, the Rig Veda has a statement that there are 4 levels of knowledge and speech and mind. Bhartrihari elaborated on 3 of these. Adi Shankara rejected Bhartrihari because of his sport theory and Nada Brahman, which is very complex, sophisticated stuff, but Adi Shankara didn't like it at all. Kashmir Shaivites took Bhartrihari's system and added another dimension to it. Okay? And that amended, enhanced Kashmir Shaivism is what I claim Maharishi brought into Advaita Vedanta. So now it is bigger, richer, and it is not the same system as Adi Shankara. It's an extended version, but it doesn't contradict Adi Shankara, but it extends it. So this is very interesting for me, and this is why I'm here. I want to learn. I want to experience this not as multiple different things I learned from here and there, but I want to experience this whole thing as a single system. So the next thing which I have here is not showing up there. Can you help me? I should wait.
That one has a lag. This is your laptop. You go up on the screen to look here.
Yeah, but here also it's not. My screen is moved forward. My screen has moved forward. There it is. Oh, it does. He's right. It does take 2 minutes to do that. So Maharishi Vedic science, which in my opinion, incorporates all those things that I picked up from here and there. Now it's encounter with the Buddhist theory of language and meaning. That is the Vignan Thijm-Kisoensingh area, which is what I have also been resolving. And I will show you Maharishi's, consciousness levels. That's my slide. And that slide will catch up. So basically, I've taken Maharishi's consciousness levels, and in this slide I'm showing the lower levels. Buddhist theory is absolutely conforming to that, and the upper levels, Sri Aurobindo conforms to that. Kashmir Shaivism has 2 parts, the lower part and the upper part. So my feeling is that Maharishi's system can accommodate all of these in a very nice way. This is the work. This is one of the things that I'm writing about. Now I'm going to talk about where does this take me in my own work. I want to discuss what is meant by a school of thought, because Maharishi has a school of thought, and Maharishi's school of thought is not sort of exact replica of an ancient school of thought. It is modernized, obviously. He's brought it into the modern context, into the current context, contemporary context, which is what a Smriti is supposed to be. So, but I raise an issue. I say that, okay, Maharishi has done that for all of us, starting some decades ago, but a new epoch has come, which is AI. It is as dramatically different as anything that's happened in the last 100 years. And I'm not talking about the technology and the economics and the joblessness or new jobs or whatever. I'm not talking about the political, social dimensions which are profound. I'm talking about the philosophical and metaphysical dimensions. Because if everything is, so let me just ask you what the questions are, and then I'll tell you these are the things I've worked on. If everything can be done in theory, if the mind can be replicated by algorithms and AI and robots, which is what singularity claims, the people who claim singularity and general intelligence, some say it's there, some say it'll be there in a few years or 10 to 20 years, doesn't matter even if it takes 1,000 years. If it can in principle be done, then it means that the brain is basically a machine. It's a biological equivalent of silicon, and if you can have its building blocks are, so as a scientist you have to say the building blocks are molecules and atoms fundamental particles. So if that is what makes us special, and whether it creates consciousness or it, like a radio station, like a radio can receive the broadcast, it receive the frequency, whatever may be the actual mechanism, if that is what is a material entity, if it can do that, then in principle, why couldn't we replicate the same functionality in silicon? What is there? After all, if you look at the periodic table, carbon and silicon are right next to each other. So there is, you could believe that God, Bhagwan, whatever, evolved us, brought us to this point to take the cosmic consciousness and move it forward up to a point, and now we are no good. We just reached out, we are too violent, we are a bunch of useless people, human beings in general, and we are very dirty, we produce so much junk, and so we kind of polluted the world, we are infested the earth, and now a new body type will evolve, a new avatar, new body type will evolve, and our job is to train that, take over, turn over all our knowledge, so we go extinct, we become like monkeys are, they look after us like monkeys, and maybe they'll be nice to us, and and we'll have, like, they have zoos, we have zoos, so they will be treating us like we treat monkeys, and they'll be very exotic. They say, hey, we evolved out of this, these guys were there, they used to have, they used to eat idli dosa and all that stuff. And their argument would be, I mean, look at it from their point of view, their argument would be that, we don't need an agriculture industry because these guys needed to eat food for energy, but we get it from the sun. We silicon guys, we get it from the sun. Whole agriculture industry is already waste, it's a waste of environment. We don't need the healthcare industry because we don't fall sick. I mean, if a chip is gone, you put a new chip. So you don't need Ayurveda, you don't need any medicine, you don't need pharmaceutical industry, you don't need doctors, you don't need hospitals, you don't need any of that because we don't fall sick. If there's a malfunction, the robot who's the robot doctor comes and puts a new chip, that's it. So like that you could go through, and from the robot point of view, I mean, you could argue that, that we've had enough of human time and now maybe this next life. So I have to answer that question. I have to answer that question too, because if I have this meditation and that meditation is evolving, I have to now take on these issues. So I need to update for the age of AI. I have to do my best. For the age of AI, I have to answer these questions. So I will. The next chart is a very important chart. So I want to make sure that we wait 2 minutes. And the next chart basically says, I have developed 4 theorems in what is called modern mathematics or computation theory. That is part of my training. When I moved from physics to computer science, this was not for writing programs and all, but I was a theoretician. I really wanted to understand the theory of computation. And in the theory of computation, you have theorems by very eminent people in the last 100 years, from 1931, then big milestone in 1933, then 50s. This is before all the big computers started coming, but the theory was there. And this computation theory and modern mathematics has a lot to say about what is knowable and what is not knowable. Are there truths that cannot be known? These are profound consequences of modern mathematics. I will not go into here because people also then take it and make a video out of it or make some quick course out of it. And I'm fighting this. I'm not fighting, but I'm engaged with some of the best brains in modern mathematics and computation theory at Princeton, and I'm doing it very carefully because I don't want them to feel that this is some kind of a way to bring some religion or mysticism or Vedas into it. I'm doing it very pure as a mathematician. So what I'm doing is, first I've proven the incompleteness of this modern mathematics and computation theory. The most important theories that exist, I'm able to prove that there is something incomplete about them. Now, how do you prove incompleteness without bringing in any mysticism or any philosophy? Within the system itself, there are rules that are being violated. So, for instance, the idea of infinite regress. Infinite regress, which I'm sure John Hagelin understands, and you understand the problem of infinite regress. I'm showing that these theorems of very famous people, very important people, suffer from infinite regress. And that is not undeniable. So showing their limits is not an issue. I can do that, and some people have done it, but not so forcefully and not in our context. So the second part is my theorems on a remedy. What is a remedy for this limitation that modern mathematics has? I don't want to show my hand. I'm telling you guys about it, but I'm not going to tell you the whole thing, because somebody just go out and do some Facebook or YouTube influencer type thing tomorrow, and I'll have an issue. My strategy is I'm removing any reference, it's a two-page part strategy. Part one, I'm removing any reference to anything to do with Vedas, mysticism, spirituality, metaphysics, any of that. And I'm basically saying the necessary and sufficient conditions to resolve the problem are X. And that's it. That's all I want. I want to go that far. That's all I want to do. And I want these mathematicians and logicians and philosophers and all these people to accept that as a peer-reviewed publication. And I want to make that happen. And that's a very big deal, big milestone for me and my contribution. Once that has happened, once the necessary and sufficient conditions to solve the problem are X in a very abstract, written in a very abstract way, then my part two is undeniable, that I can show that our Vedic tradition satisfies X. So this is why it's a part two strategy, and this is why I'm not going to discuss it, because I've had an experience of people just take it off here and there and make it, say I found it and discovered it and whatnot. And this is my 50 years of meditation culminating in this. So this is going to be, this is my aha moment leading to what I consider first principles. So where does this all take me? In one final slide, I want to show.
Go with your laptop and then show up on the screen half a minute later.
Okay. So it is, yeah. So this is a, yeah, I'll just show you. So that thing in the middle is frameworks, it just overflowed. So I'm developing first principles and frameworks and applying them to current situations. So the idea is the first principles are Vedic first principles. The frameworks are how you use these first principles and argue and reason. And to commemorate our 30th anniversary, some people said, why don't we take all the terms we've coined and write a book on all the terms we've coined, which influenced so many people. And then as we started compiling the terms we've coined and writing descriptions, some of the descriptions went 2 pages, 5 pages, 20 pages, 25 pages to describe what it is, like to describe the non-translatability of Sanskrit. So it's a big subject. So we ended up with 800 or 900 pages of frameworks. Those terms are not just terms we've coined, but entire ways of thinking, entire frameworks of how you think, how do you reason, how do you answer. So we now have a project called Our Frameworks. That compilation of our frameworks is our school of thought. So we have about 70 or 80 frameworks in our Infinity Foundation, and a team is developing, writing them up and all that. Now this new insight will add a whole lot of new frameworks and expand the first principles on which we are going to reason and argue. Because once you have what the Maharishi's Vedic science is a set of first principles from which many conclusions, many applications to society are to be done, which is why it is such a beautiful system, because starting with first principles, you can prove a lot. So we are, just like he extended the Advaita Vedanta from Adi Shankara, as I showed, we think that in this age of AI, it needs to be extended again. And so we are taking that initiative, and we would love to work with anybody who would like to help us. join us, critique us, argue with us, falsify us. All that's very useful for us. And when we in parallel, we have our own AI project. So we're going to take on AI with AI. So we have our own AI project for the last 3-4 years, where we are taking our first principles and our frameworks and creating a system of reasoning using our frameworks. So rather than arguing back that the AI is no good, we are creating what we call reasoning engine, an inference engine, a logic engine, using our own frameworks. And this is not large language model based. It is not anything that, okay, we're going to create a new large language model. We've avoided the whole large language model, small language model, language model. It's not a manipulation of language, because we are looking at knowledge at a level which is before you language it, there's an idea before you turn it into language. And that is the whole beauty of what I've learned from the Maharishi system, and that Thijm-Kisoensingh will take me further into. So now the final thing, it says, this is a slide that says my journey, and then I'm done. So this is basically, it starts with meditation, then Vedic theory, to understand it in the context of Vedic theory, then broader metaphysics. Broader metaphysics is where I bring in the metaphysics of the other people like Kashmir Shaivism and Sri Aurobindo and all these things. And then the green one is 108 frameworks. I should have actually turned this into a PDF because the format of this machine is different. The 108 frameworks which we are doing. And this blue one is the big idea, the big breakthrough, mathematics and computation logic, a new expansion of our tradition by incorporating what we think is innovative four theorems we've made. And this is what we're calling new smritis, first principles, and this is going to be packaged as a school of thought. Thank you very much for listening. I would love to take questions.